Hey everybody, it's Lawless. There's been some videos out there showing you how to rebuild your ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, and Spool Performance also has one, but there are some small RAM nuances that aren't covered. There's also some comments that I've seen on that Spool video that say, hey, we skipped a step. So I'm gonna break this down step by step, how to rebuild your 4th generation ZF 8-speed automatic transmission utilizing Spool Performance parts. The reason why I'm doing this is because my 2016 Ram clubbed Clifford is over 200,000 miles. We threw in the Stage 2 AMS Performance cam with short tube headers, an aggressive tune from, what's that company? From Hemi Fever. And, you know, the 5.7 puts out 395 horsepower itself. You put an aggressive cam with some headers and an intake and a tune, and you're trying to turn 37-inch mud terrains, and things start to wear out. I've already blown the rear diff, and part of that tune that Hemi Fever gave me for the transmission felt fantastic for about the first 1,000 miles or so, and then the 1.2 started slipping, the 2.3 started slipping, but the 1.2 is really bad. But this kit from Spool Performance is rated for 1,200 horsepower. So it's a $4,000 investment, especially once you get all the upgrade goodies that you want to do. I'm a big fan of spend money once, cry once. So I'm not going to do this long YouTube style. I'm just going to do part by part, showing you bolt for bolt what you're going to do. And I hope this helps you out. So removing your cannon plug adapter, I guess we'll call it, for the transmission connector. Be very careful. It does tend to get a little stuck. As you can see, I have kind of dicked mine up a little bit. Holistically, the unit is fine, but I've definitely rounded off and made a couple small cracks trying to pull it out with a set of pliers. So it was the best I got. But yeah, just take your time, be patient, grip firm so that you don't slip, because slipping will also just kind of slip round off the channels that the cannon plug routes through. But also don't go too hard that you literally just crush the thing. Depending on the heat and the miles, you know, these fiberglass plastic kind of connectors can become really brittle, so just be very careful. All right, when removing the valve body, one thing that I didn't know, according to the SP Spool Performance, whatever. So this is the selector, so to speak, for like reverse, neutral, drive, and all that. So inside of here, where my middle finger is, that chasm, that connector this pin is. When you look over here, in relation to the gear select lever that is driven by right there, on the back side is your parking pawl. So when I removed it, because of the spring, it kind of became jammed and I had to do some finessing to get it out. What I should have done was, by slightly depressing the parking pawl, I was then able to move all the way. So you have to fight the spring, but by just slightly depressing this parking paw, it allowed this to unlatch. So just next time, make sure you have a buddy nearby when you're removing that valve body. Just a slight, 5 pounds of pressure was enough to ease up on that parking paw. All right, so once you have all of your oil pump bolts out, you need to come in here from the valve body side and taking a screwdriver, stick it in about there, and just give it a pry. Go the other way, like push it. There we go. So the seal's been broken, and now we come around and we can see all the way around. Keep going. And this whole thing will just come right out. All right, so the next step of getting your oil pump housing out, you've done all the bolts. Coming from the backside, taking a small pry bar, you're going to wedge it in between these two surfaces. I used a flathead screwdriver to get mine out. As I was taking it out, the entire basket and clutch assembly kept trying to come with the pump. I honestly don't know if it mattered or not, but there is this snap ring that you can see. There's the shinier, chromier aluminum surface, and then there's this surface right there. You can see some of the numbers of the name of that bearing. I took this snap ring out. I don't know yet if it was the reason why this thing was getting jammed up. I'm gonna suspect no. I'm gonna put it back in. I'm pretty sure this is just to hold in. You can see the cage type bearing assembly right there. So I'm gonna put this back in, but I took it out. I don't know if you need to or not, but I did. I'm gonna put it back in. But to get this thing out, because the video that Spool Performance puts on makes it look like this assembly comes out like it's a Lego brick. So what I did was I was able to pop it out a little bit using a small crowbar to just apply leverage, just enough like that, just get some wiggle action in there, and simultaneously was wedging it just somewhere down in this channel, being very careful and paying very close attention to not put rapid force to not blemish or screw up any of this aluminum surface. I also don't fully know what's on in there, so I didn't go in between. I just tried to stick between this casting surface, which is not exactly precision machine, so I felt safe. And then over here on this side, also cast. It looks slightly machined, but not like precision. I don't think it's creating a seal of any kind. So again, just be careful, be patient, and just little wiggle pumps. As you see, the whole thing moves, including the input shaft. So just take your time, wiggles, and constant pressure, and I was able to pop it loose. All right, so after we got the pump out of the way, there's an O-ring right here that we're gonna wait to replace until the install phase. That way I can do 1-for-1 swaps. But yeah, you just start taking all these clutch packs out. I got my little hook tool. Again, all of these are getting replaced from the Spool Performance kit. Be careful taking this out. Try to be gentler than I was. Just one of your outer ring gears, planetary gear set. There's a planetary gear set in there. And I'm just trying to pay attention and think about what all's coming out. On the backside, there is this super beefy ring. Looking at the Spool Performance kit, I don't know if it came with this or not, so I'm gonna make sure and set this aside as a just in case. Of note, one side does feel beveled, like it's smoothed over this way, whereas the back side is more of a hard 90. So just pay attention to that. I think direction obviously does matter in things like this. So again, the smooth rounded side gets installed this way with that hard 90 machining being on the back side. So the next is going to be pulling out the entire basket and clutch pack assembly along with this by pulling out on the shaft. I'm going to be balancing on the shaft, and I'm also going to be holding the backside output shaft. The whole thing should come out as a unit. To do that, we have to fully put this thing into neutral because right now it's in park and it wants to lock up some gears. So you can't just pull this, you depress the parking paw, and you're going to pull on this as hard as you can, and then release the parking paw, and you should be in neutral now. All right, so before we can pull out the entire shaft basket assembly, take out this rear seal, I use one of these guys. The inside of it, you can see, is pretty robust. So don't be afraid to maybe use this shallower hook. And it took me a few hammer strikes. I recommend putting the transmission into park, so that way you can use these teeth to kind of help keep your tool straight, so it just keeps them like I did. Lastly, right there is a snap ring. And so I'm gonna try and get my snap ring pliers in here. And I can't, so I'm just gonna use one of my hook tools, try and get it in there to get that snap ring out. All right, so with that snap ring removed, supplying support, the whole thing comes out. And I'm trying to be careful to not drag too fast and too hard. There's obviously not really a way that I can support while I'm dragging it out, but I'm trying to pay attention to, like, if anything's catching, rotating, pivoting. Sometimes it's just part of the suck is to drag things out. It probably weighs a good, maybe 45, 60 pounds. Okay. So next is the disassembly of the clutch basket. I'm just using a couple sawhorses that are zip tied together, so that way I can have each individual section staged out. First thing is just removing that upper snap ring. All right, so this upper snap ring, if you look, there's like a blocker here, and there are two like blocker tabs here. That's to, prevent people like you and me from rebuilding these things. But what I did is I weaseled my way on the sideline here using these hook tools. And as I take this just up and around, you'll see there's enough room now that this whole unit can come off. And you'll notice this is keyed. So when you go to reinstall this, paying attention, right here is another like lip ledge key. So this insert cut out and usually get lined up with that key. So now that that's out of the way, I just set it aside. Now I'll take out, this is a sun gear. So I'm gonna set that aside. So I had that one holding it down, and I'm just gonna walk around and just using my little hook tools. And there we go. Now that snap ring, again, paying attention to the keyed little rivets that are supposed to stop us. So I'm gonna set that aside. All right, with that snapping removed, now take out your planetary gear set, set that aside, face down so that we know it. And then the next thing we do before we can remove these inners and this ring gear is there's this snap ring right here. So again, I'm gonna use my pick tools to try to fish it out like the others. All right, so getting this snap ring out. I didn't see any kind of special keying with it. We just kind of fish it out. Set that aside. And now we should be able to remove this whole assembly. All right, so before we can remove the outer basket and the inner gear set, there is this parking pawl retaining ring, I'm gonna call it. There are these tabs, as you can see, some of them are bent up from the factory, and then you'll see some have like an extra bend on them. That's from me. So just be careful when you're bending them. They're pretty soft. And all I did was unbend the tabs and rotate it. And so now I should be able to remove the parking pawl. Now with the parking pawl removed, this ring right here is pretty much affixed to it. It just holds it like that. So I'm gonna leave these together just like this. But now I can remove the rest of the clutch assemblies from the basket. So this piece you will keep. It also has a ring gear in it, held in with a snap ring. There's no need to take that apart. But one of the pieces that we will be replacing is the Spool Performance cage basket. This is the old one. This is the new one. This one allegedly has better cooling, better capacity. So, all right, so right now these are arranged from like the top to the midsection to the bottom. So working on the midsection right now. This ring gear just simply comes out. And then next is going to be removing this this C-clip so that we can get exposed to those clutch packs. All right, so next we can pull out the rest of our clutch assembly. For this one, pay attention that there are these roller bearings right here, and they're throughout the rest of the build. So just pay attention if you flip-flop these things upside down, they don't, like they're just held in there by the old fluid. So just be mindful that when you're moving things around, you're paying attention where those roller cage bearings go. So this is clutch pack 1. And you can see, I'm pretty sure this is what was the other upgrade part from Spool Performances. And then you have your second clutch pack inside the basket. There's this bearing right here, so be mindful of that. It drops in like that. And I'm just going to pull it out of the basket, just like that. And so this is our second clutch pack. So again, this was the center basket. This is the bottom basket, if you will. Remember that parking pod was down there along with the ring gear. So just for keeping your parts on track. Again, we have these anti-work on your DIY little pins. So I just work one up at a time. And then I'm gonna set that aside. This clutch pack is ready to be pulled out. All right, and now it's time for installation. So all these clutch packs assemblies, the ones that are loose like this, like they're one size. There's no way you could get them into the wrong group or sector. So they recommend you soak all of these for about 10 minutes. So I have a bucket, Harbor Freight bucket, and I filled it full of 2 quarts of the Blau Parts 8 HP fluids. So as you notice, when you pull the whole thing out of the package, one of them is slightly thicker, and then this top one, how it has the staged shelves, I guess we'll call it, is going to end up replacing this guy. So this would no longer be a thing. Don't lose the snap ring though. And after you've been soaking these for about 10 minutes, just simply drop them in one at a time, alternating between steel plates and your friction plates. All right, so now we're gonna put our snap ring back in. Nothing special here. I'm just gonna start from one end. And again, seeing how this is staged, how it's lipped, it's gonna be kind of tricky. This is supposed to go all the way deep, all the way around to that outer lip. And so there's just enough clearance that may push down a little bit, compress some of those fluids from the soaking, and just give it a good look around, make sure everything's fully seated. So again, this is our oil pump assembly. There are clutch packs inside of it. So same deal, we have this snapping all the way around. So I'm just gonna dig in there and just try and fish it out. All right, snap ring is out. I'm just gonna grab this shaft and pull out this entire clutch pack assembly and set that aside. All right, so this is the stock clutch set. It's by, the anti-DIY, whatever you're gonna call them. When you're disassembling them, again, the standard steel friction sure. On the bottom, you're gonna notice there's like a bushing plate, because it goes bushing plate, and then it goes steel, and then your standard frictions. So the Spool Performance kit does not come with this bushing plate. It just goes straight to steel and then to your different clutch packs. When I held them up next to each other, it looks pretty close when I just eyeball it, that if I don't have that shim or that this bushing plate, I guess we'll call it, it's a little bit thinner. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and include the bushing plate, I guess we'll call it, just in case. It doesn't feel steel. You can even hear it when I scratch it, versus obviously the steel, but it's just, I think it's supposed to be here for a reason, and just part of the Spool performance kit just doesn't have it. So I'm gonna put it in, and we'll know in 10,000 miles if I can rate a transmission or not. All right, so there is a special tool you can use. I wasn't paying attention and didn't get one in time, so instead of just using 2 C-clamps, it seems to be pretty okay, pretty safe. And so what I'm doing is I'm pushing in from the bottom to expose as much of the top as I can, and then I'm going to squeeze down on that plate right there, so that way I can expose this snap ring. It's on there really, really tight. So you can imagine there's probably a lot of energy stored in that thing. So when you go to spread it, I'm gonna recommend you have like a hand over it. So that way, if it decides to pop, you don't have to go hunting for it. All right, so we took out the snap ring, and so now it's gonna be time to replace everything with the Spool Performance kit. So this piece, we're gonna call the bottom base. It will be replacing this right here. I'm gonna go ahead and put on my plates and everything. Again, I soaked them for about 10 minutes. All right, so after I lubed up all of the new clutch packs, I'm now gonna loosen all of these, my C-clamps. And now this comes off. We're going to be keeping this along with the snap ring. We're also going to be keeping this spring assembly. And then that bottom gear. The rest of this is all old stock, not needed. Set that aside. Okay, but as you can see, this and this guy, this is the new improved unit from what Spool Performance says. So this will be going in from the bottom. Nice and tight and flush in there. Be taking the spring, put that back on top, and then taking our disc, putting that back on top, and being from that C-clip. But before we do all that, just want to show you how it goes together. There are 2 O-rings that need to go into this, under these channels. So do those before you do the assembly. I just wanted to show you real quick how it goes together. All right, so this is called, again, your C-clutch assembly. So get your C-clutch hardware. This silver plate, go ahead and pull that out, and you're gonna see a very thick lipped O-ring gasket type. So that's gonna be this bigger guy. And then you have 2 smaller ones that will go around your replacement of this. And then you're also gonna see there's some on the inside as well. So you have 2 on the outside, and then you have 2 on the inside. All right, so now that's assembled, just wanna show you real quick how I got that snap ring back on, because it was kind of tight. Snap ring, right? So I angled it to where it was over that shaft like that. I stuck the tips of snapping pliers into the groove, and as I spread, I just kept back pressure on that snap ring and just kept squeezing. Eventually I got to almost full open. But having it in that groove helped keep it stable while I just held back pressure, and then it finally went and snapped. All right, so this is your D-clutch assembly. I did the same thing with the C-clamps to compress it down. Push this body down and you'll see your snap ring is exposed. This one's different. It's a circular spiral spring type snap ring, not the flat washer type. So one trick that I kind of figured out, because it keeps slipping being a circle, is I pry it just enough where there's a gap that I can sneak in one of these pick tools, and I'm able to just gently leverage it over lip, so that way I can get it fully off. So yeah, try the snap ring pliers, get it just enough. It's kind of hard to do one-handed, but don't forget to add in these 2 O-rings and replace this seal that goes into that. All right, so now it's time to start throwing things back into the basket. Starting with your C-hub or C-clutch, whatever. Don't forget about this roller bearing, this plate type bearing. It drops down like that. And we're going to install that first. As we're going down, we're lining up all of the individual clutch plates. I recommend doing this before you insert into the basket. Using a couple screwdrivers. You can see I got most of them down, but I got like one more, to line up. But just do that, repeating the process for your C, and then after that we'll go your E. Again, don't forget about this roller plate bearing on the install. All right, so now that you got your basket with the clutch plates installed, the next thing is going to be installing your snap rings. There's 2 of them, they're equal size. The first one's gonna go down there, and then you're gonna install your ring gear, and then there's gonna go a snap ring that goes on top of it. They're pretty easy, just put them with your hands. All right, so I also got the upgraded basket cage, whatever you call it. I'm glad I did, because this one has some, I don't know if that's like hardcore scoring or if it's just like some buildup. It does largely come off, I guess, but like down in there, yeah, I guess. But just a little fun. So this guy's gonna go away, and you're going to take this whole unit. It's gonna drop inside of there, along with your planetary gear set. I didn't see any bearings on it that you could have lost. Again, just make sure you get that bearing set on there. And remember how that, that snap ring works with these keys. One more thing I noticed. Spool Performance says this one's supposed to be stronger, made of higher tolerance materials. Like physically, I don't really see much of a difference, but it's supposed to be stronger materials. But of note, there seems to be like an extra cooling passageway, which they do advertise. That it has improved cooling capabilities. That might be it, but also, wowzers. Yeah, who knows how much life this basket still had in it from maybe the hard shifts that I got from the Hemi Fever transmission tune. I may or may not be deleting that tune and going back to a factory tune for the transmission. But yeah, clearly this guy, he was taking some hits. One trick that I've just learned is you're gonna take it, focus on getting it hooked like that, and then you can rotate it into the groove, so that way everything lines up. And so once you get that, you can just walk it around. All right, so now we have our big basket, and the sequence of events is going to be dropping that gear set into the basket, and then taking our C and E clutch assembly basket and dropping it on top. Of note, all of these teeth obviously have to line up with these splines. And as you can see, the ones that have the groove for the fluid cooling are slightly wider than the narrower teeth. There is a very small difference, and if you look into your clutch teeth, you're gonna see there's a big gap there, and then little gap, big gap, little gap, big gap. So you have to make sure all of those are lined up all the way down. So after trying to do what I said, put in, and then put the red one put in, and trying to gently wiggle with it and fight it, I decided it was much easier to just invert, place in, so I could smoothly move this around the teeth. And then it's gonna drop the basket on top of it and rotate the whole thing back over to put the snap rings. Next is this ring gear, sun gear. There is a bearing on this back side, pay attention to that. And there is a bearing on this front side, make sure you have those. The next is installing this compound sun ring gear. Again, there's a bearing right there, and there's a bearing underneath, which mates with that bearing and that surface there. So just drop it in, line up your teeth. I'm gonna go in. Now, as you see, the basket is too low because the basket is supposed to be up here. So to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and install this next. But one of our next steps is going to be installing that parking pawl to the rear again. On your basket assembly, there's also a couple big ones down there. So again, similar to the other snap ring that was keyed, what I did is I just snaked in, like undercut, so to speak, that first one on the right, and then the left one, I channeled through those first couple teeth, so that way they're at those bump stops. And now I have this back end up, and I'm just gonna walk the spring around. So now that I've flipped the entire clutch assembly, next is gonna be reinstalling our parking pawl. Looking around, remember we have these two plastic spring type O-ring gasket things. I didn't see any other O-rings on this bottom side, so we're just going to take this parking pawl, put it on top, lining up the teeth with everything, and then just sliding this to the right. I'm gonna take a screwdriver, light hammer, and just try to tink this thing around. And then I'm going to identify the tabs that I had bent up previously, and I'm going to mush those ones back down, leaving up all the rest. So now that you got your clutch pack assembly installed, remember those plastic O-ring things in the back? I was fighting those for the longest time, and then the only way I was finally able to get it in is I was spinning with one hand on the back side and my other hand up here on the front, just spinning and wiggling, make sure this whole assembly is spinning, and now it's finally lined up almost like it's a CV shaft. But yep, just keep spinning and keep pushing and wiggling. And at the back of the transmission, now it's time to install this this ring that seats nicely up there, and then you have your C-clip that installs back in here on the output shaft. Now it's time for all your clutch packs that you got, and the stock one doesn't need to have the thick one anymore, it comes with the new one. So just install them in alternating sequences. There doesn't seem to be a fancy key like there was for the other one. Next I'm gonna be installing the B brake, and the only gasket that I found is just this one surrounding the entire pump. The rest of the guys that come in the kit, I think, are like if you were to take apart the pump completely, but I'm not doing that. I'm just replacing this. And there's also a seal, shaft seal. It's gonna go right there. Again, next is putting this guy in, remembering that these two ports will be lining up in this vicinity. And again, those plastic spring things, just be gentle and just rotate back and forth, keeping pressure to allow them to collapse into the pump. All right, so all of these plastic spring O-ring things are like getting stuck on the pump and trying to install it. So the trick I'm going to try is putting some Vaseline on them. Hopefully it'll be tacky enough that it'll want to keep it closed enough that I can wiggle the pump around it. Because right now I just keep getting hung up on these plastic spring O-ring things. So with the pump in, the Vaseline trick ended up being pretty good, pretty clever idea, not gonna lie myself. Just put a lot of that PJ on it and give it a good squeeze and all the way around, and it went on pretty smooth. Lastly, to finish it off, getting it into the housing, I used a dead blow hammer along with another hammer as like my extension. So I had the rubber handle going in to the face, and I was just very cognizant, paying attention as I walked it around, walking the pump back in. So next to be those torque bolts. It's aluminum hardware going into an aluminum body. So I'm just gonna go snug, maybe like 20 inch-pounds, 20 foot-pounds. I'll play with it, but they weren't that hard to break torque in the first place. So I'm just gonna make sure they're good and snug. And then the next phase of that will be reinstalling the valve body and stuff. And we had to lock it in neutral so the parking ball can be released. What you're gonna do is just gently applying pressure while depressing the parking paw. Let that go into about there's where it naturally stops. Take your valve body, feed the sensor into the backside, rotating down. All right, and then to drop this, I'm just going to gently apply a little bit of back pressure just for clearance. Pulling the shift assembly back a little bit, coming back up into here, pulling forward, and got the back in. Just give it a little bit of wiggle. All right, and that should be about how it sits. All right, again, so once you have your valve body in, you're gonna give it a healthy slap, I guess, to have the tubes that are underneath here to connect with the O-rings. In the back here, don't be alarmed. There is a bit of a lift to it because there is a spring here in the backside. So I'm gonna tighten down these ones first, working from like this back center one and just kind of working my around like a circle. All right, so Google says that the valve body is 44 to 71. I'm gonna split the middle and go 60 to keep it kind of on the safe side. And then the integrated oil pump torque bolts are said to be at 70 inch-pounds as well. So I'm gonna do 70 on the, I feel safe running 70 on that, but these ones, I'm gonna go a hair on the backside of 60. After you torqued everything, next is gonna be reinstalling your Canon plug connector adapter. 3 O-rings, there's one there, and then the 2 there. From the kit, there's this ribbed unit. That's what goes there, and then you have 2 other that are identical, same size. Go and place those. All right, after you get your connector back in, next is gonna be these 3 bolts, and give that a good click down. Applying pressure on this, giving this a wiggle, while pressing that plate down to lock it back in. Lastly, install your new oil pan and filter. Similar torque, I'm gonna go with 70, just because everything else in this transmission seems to be. And then you're gonna install it.